The following program is based on the advice and knowledge of many specialists with thousands of hours of behavioral observation of bears and extensive experience with bear and human interactions and conflicts. We cannot ensure the advice in this program will prevent you from being harmed by a bear, but the content may help you reduce your risks. If people understand and apply a few safety principles, a much greater degree of coexistence with bears is possible. Don't wait until you're face to face with a bear to think about how you're going to react, or what you could have done to avoid the encounter. In North America, humans have been living in the presence of black and grizzly bears for thousands of years. Most people perceive bears as fierce and frightening, or cute and cuddly. The truth is somewhere in between. Bears are fascinating animals, generally peaceful, but can be dangerous and deserve respect. Bears are powerful carnivores, certainly capable of injuring or killing people. What is remarkable is these tragic events happen so rarely. Bears are well equipped to do each other serious harm, but they have evolved ways to minimize the chance of physical injury. Most interactions between bears involve considerable tolerance and restraint. They usually display the same tolerance towards people. Most bears avoid people without the person even knowing it was there. Each year, countless interactions occur between people and bears without harm. A meeting, a mutual departure, no attacks, no injury, no news. But on rare occasions, a meeting between a bear and a person results in human injury or death. Each year, on average, 3 people are killed in bear attacks in North America. More are seriously injured. Sometimes it's necessary to destroy bears in defense of life and property. But each year, hundreds of bears are also shot needlessly. More people are living, working, and traveling in bear country. And in some parts of North America, bear populations are also on the increase, resulting in more interactions between people and bears. Most people don't know how to avoid bear encounters, and don't have a very clear idea about what to do when they meet one. Do you? Staying safe in bear country, a behavioral approach to human safety around grizzly and black bears. Biologist John Hechtel has over 25 years of hands-on experience with both black and grizzly bears. John uses his understanding of bears to educate people on issues regarding bear and human conflicts, human safety, and bear conservation.
The best way to minimize conflicts with bears is by practicing prevention. Though bears are forgiving of almost all human behavior, by following some simple rules, you can reduce your chances of encountering a bear and, just as important, of attracting one. But despite the best precautions, you still may occasionally meet a bear. Bears often display many of the same types of behaviors toward humans that they use with each other. Therefore, the safest way to reduce risk during an encounter is to have knowledge and understanding of their behavior and motivation. You should be able to anticipate the most common situations where you might encounter bears, and it's a good idea to mentally practice how you should respond. This knowledge and preparation can empower you to act appropriately around bears and avoid an attack. You have control over most of the important factors that determine your safety. Safety is no accident, it's your responsibility.
People who deal with bears on a regular basis have concluded they are more predictable than most of us think. Labeling them as unpredictable shuts the door to understanding. Any interaction with a bear has an element of risk. Some risk from bears is real, but generally much less than most people fear. In popular literature, films, and television, bears have been demonized or humanized. Trained bears follow a Hollywood script, but still shape people's notions of what bears are. Even in a documentary, fight scenes are usually silent play fights, overdubbed with sensational roars. Let's take another look at this scene. This is what it really sounds like. The public has been routinely misinformed. Bear safety is not show business, and knowing about bears, how they react, and how they sound during an encounter can help you deal with the situation. From this point on, none of the bears you will see are trained or filmed in captivity. We cannot show the entire range of bear behavior, but you will see how wild bears behave when encountering each other and people. Black bears and grizzly bears share many common traits. Both species have excellent senses. Their sense of smell is legendary, and they trust their noses more than their eyes or ears. Their hearing and sight is similar to that of people. They often stand to get a better look or to catch a scent. If you can see a bear, chances are it is capable of sensing you. If the wind is blowing from you to the bear, if sound is not obscured, the bear probably knew you were there long ago. However keen their senses are, it's still possible to surprise a bear. Bears are heavy animals with short legs and necks, making them very powerful. They are strong swimmers, completely comfortable in the water. They can run much faster than the fastest human, over any terrain, uphill or down. Black bears are much better at climbing trees than grizzly bears, but many grizzly bears, like this adult female, can also climb trees. All bears are inquisitive, intelligent animals with varied dispositions. Mothers care for and protect their young. The early years are intensely social. Young bears are constantly learning. Play hones survival skills and prepares them for interactions with other bears. They continue to learn throughout their life. If they learn or experience something in one area, they can apply that knowledge over time and great distances. Bears may travel a vast area and spend most of their time searching for food to support growth, their offspring, and prepare for winter denning. They consume large quantities of high-quality food, most of which consists of vegetation. But some bears eat large amounts of fish and meat. Food and the search for it influence every aspect of a bear's life. Bears are also motivated to mate, to establish or assert dominance, as well as defend personal space, offspring, or food. Black and grizzly bears can adapt to areas occupied by humans. But most humans are less willing to tolerate the presence of bears, especially grizzlies. A bear repeatedly exposed to humans at close range without negative experience learns to tolerate them at these distances. This is called human habituation, but does not mean such a bear is tame. Some bear viewing programs take advantage of human habituation in areas where bears congregate and feed on an abundant food source. These areas can provide safe and unique opportunities for people to view bears in their natural habitat, provided that the bears can predict people's activities and that all human food is kept away from the bears. Most photographs and films of bears are from such places. A human-habituated bear may not avoid people, so it's more likely to come in contact with carelessly stored food or garbage. Bears that learn to associate human activity with a meal are called human food conditioned. They can become aggressive in their pursuit of human food, causing property damage or occasionally human injury. In rare cases, these bears have killed and eaten people. But most often, the bear is the one killed. Grizzly and black bears have much in common, but there are also some important differences between the species. The names grizzly bear, brown bear, and Kodiak bear refer to the same species. For clarity, we'll refer to them all as grizzlies. Grizzlies are primarily found in forested and open habitats in Alaska and western and northern Canada, where they may be locally more abundant than black bears. In the lower 48 states of the U.S., they occur in a few scattered populations in the Northwest. Black bears are a different species. They are the most abundant bears on the continent, widely distributed throughout the forested areas of Canada, the U.S., and parts of northern Mexico.
The species of bear isn't the only factor which should determine your behavior during an encounter, but it can be useful to distinguish between a grizzly and a black bear. Knowing which species you are facing may provide you with an important clue to the bear's motives and how you should respond.
Color alone is not a reliable way to identify either species. The color of a grizzly's pelt is quite variable. They may be blonde, somewhat red to a dark brown. Some grizzlies are black. Often the hairs are silver-tipped, giving them a grizzled appearance. Some may even have a white collar. Grizzly bears usually have a prominent hump over the shoulder. Their front claws are long and specialized for digging. Grizzlies evolved in treeless habitats where escape to cover was not an option. As a result, they are more inclined to defend when they feel threatened. Although most black bears are black with a tan muzzle and may have white markings on their chest or neck, color varies. Chocolate and cinnamon are not uncommon, especially in drier areas of the West where grizzlies of similar color also may be found. A few populations of black bear have individuals that are blonde, a grayish blue, or even white. Black bears lack a shoulder hump, tend to have a straight face profile, and short curved claws. They evolved in forested habitats and are agile climbers. As a result, when threatened, a black bear usually escapes to the safety of the forest rather than stand its ground and fight. Bears may spend much of their time alone, but they can be quite social and have evolved a structured but flexible society. Most bears are not territorial and don't try to exclude other bears from the area where they live. Home ranges of individuals typically overlap those of their neighbors. Yet each bear has around it a personal space that it monitors and may defend. The extent of this space and level of defense can vary with each individual bear or its species. They establish a dominance hierarchy maintained by interactions with each other. Generally, large, confident males dominate. Other bears rank in the hierarchy based on size, physical condition, and personality. Immature bears and newly weaned youngsters are lowest on the hierarchy. Dominance determines access to preferred feeding sites and mates.
There is much to be learned by watching bears interact, especially how they resolve conflict. These are lessons relevant to human safety. Bears do fight, but ritualized displays, avoidance, and restraint characterize most interactions between bears.
Dominance and submission are communicated through body language. Vocal sounds, head and ear position, body posture, and movements are important in assessing bear behavior. Bears signal different levels of discomfort or stress. Some stress signals are subtle, such as a pause in activity, a stiffening stance and change in body orientation, a yawn out of place. Others are more obvious, such as huffing, moaning, and teeth popping. When faced with one of their own species, each bear will quickly assess the situation. Most encounters conclude with the bears increasing their distance from one another. But low-stress interactions have the potential to escalate if one bear ignores another's warnings or continues to crowd another's personal space. This can take minutes or seconds, such as this female grizzly defending her young. High-stress aggressive displays include salivating, rapid huffing, roaring, and open-mouth jawing, paw swatting, guttural sounds, or a charge, which may or may not stop short of contact. Whatever the level of stress, each bear normally reacts to minimize its chance of injury. The better you understand and are able to recognize these behaviors and the motivation behind them, the better your chance of lowering your risk during an encounter. Except in some remote areas, most bears have had some previous experience with people. Whatever a bear has learned from these experiences will influence its behavior during the next encounter. While it's always safest to prevent encounters, there are many situations in which bears and humans interact. The most common situation is when a bear avoids you or remains undetected without you knowing it was there. Let's find out why a bear wouldn't avoid you.
There are reasons why a bear may not avoid you. It might be defensive, that is, threatened by your presence to the point it shows aggression. Defensive behavior is almost always a result of you entering a bear's personal space, surprising or crowding it. Occasionally, an unaware bear approaches you and is surprised.
A defensive bear perceives you as a threat to itself or its cubs, or it may be protecting its food. It will most likely appear agitated or stressed. The signs of stress vary with the level of a bear's agitation. These may range from low stress to high-level aggression, such as a charge. A common example of defensive behavior is a sudden encounter with a female grizzly and cubs. The closer you are to a bear when it becomes aware of you, the more likely it is to react in a defensive manner. You also have less time to react. Though most defensive interactions with bears stop short of contact, they do sometimes result in attacks. Defensive attacks almost always involve grizzly bears surprised at close range, on a carcass, or protecting their young. Defensive attacks by black bears are very rare, and the few recorded cases have been females defending cubs. We've seen some defensive behavior. Now let's look at other reasons why a bear might approach.
In contrast to defensive behavior, there are other reasons a bear may not avoid you or even approach. It could just be curious or used to people. It could be after your food or a bold bear testing its dominance. In the rarest case, it might think you're a potential prey. All of these non-defensive approaches may appear similar to each other.
A curious bear might come from a distance to investigate human activity. Sometimes it circles downwind to get a scent. At closer range, it usually makes a slow, hesitant approach with its ears cocked forward, its head and nose raised, as it uses its senses to identify what you are. Human-habituated bears tolerate people at close distances without apparent concern, especially in places they're used to encountering them. Don't take this as an invitation to approach. A bear's personal space shrinks as it's habituated, but it's still there. To crowd it can be dangerous. Food-conditioned bears may be bold and approach deliberately to get to your food. They can come right into your camp, rip into your tent, or enter a building. Sometimes a bear may boldly approach you attempting to assert dominance. They can be at any level of the bear hierarchy, from a dominant adult male that expects right-of-way to a young bear testing its status. They may walk deliberately toward you with apparent confidence, indirectly in a zigzag fashion, or circling, paying little attention to you, but occasionally glancing as they advance. A predatory bear will be intensely interested and focused on you, a potential meal. It may not show much stress and will probably have its head up and ears erect as it persistently or suddenly closes in on you. Predatory bears, especially ones that have been food conditioned, have been known to enter human structures and attack people. Contrary to our greatest fear, predatory attacks under any circumstances are exceedingly rare.
I think people can recognize them from...
Stephen Herrero is Professor Emeritus of Environmental Science at the University of Calgary. He has done research on bear ecology, behavior, conservation, and attacks for over 30 years. He is author of the classic book, Bear Attacks, Their Causes and Avoidance.
Over the past 33 years, I've studied serious and fatal injuries inflicted by bears to people throughout North America. The data clearly show that although bear attacks are rare, grizzly bears are more dangerous than black bears. Most serious and fatal grizzly bear attacks are defensive, while such attacks by black bears are typically predaceous. Your response to a bear encounter shouldn't just depend on whether it's a black or a grizzly bear, but on the circumstances and the bear's behavior.
We've seen the different types of behaviors a bear may display during an encounter. Now let's find out how to respond to them. To be as safe as possible while in bear country, avoid bears, just as most bears avoid you. But what do you do if you see a bear? Anytime you see a bear, stop. Remain calm and assess the situation. Does the bear know you're there? If it appears to be unaware of you and you can move away undetected, do so quietly when the bear is not looking toward you. Keep your eye on the bear. If it's moving in your general direction, watch for any change in its behavior. Make a wide detour or leave the area the way you came. Be most careful not to crowd or surprise bears, especially grizzly bears. For instance, shouting at a grizzly bear that is unaware of you may provoke an attack. What do you do if the bear becomes aware of you? If you cannot leave without the bear becoming aware of you, calmly and in a non-threatening way from as far away as possible, identify yourself as human. Talk to the bear in a low, respectful voice.
Hey, bear.
And wave your arms slowly.
Whoa, bear.
Increase your distance. If possible, try to move upwind to give the bear your scent. When a bear is aware of you and appears unconcerned, you should take this opportunity to leave. Don't run. It could invite pursuit. Keep track of the bear as you move away. Give it plenty of room. Continue to increase your distance. Never approach a bear even if it appears calm. This just means you're outside its personal space. If you insist on approaching, you may provoke an aggressive response. Usually, when a bear becomes aware of you, its most common response is to move away. The safest thing to do after the bear has moved on is to leave the area. If you must continue, give the bear some time. Proceed with caution, stay alert, and make noise.
Hey, bear.
If you hear bear vocalizations or see young bears on the ground or in a tree, be extremely cautious and leave the area silently the way you came. What do you do if a bear approaches you? A bear approaching you is a more serious encounter. Your best response is to stop for a moment. Stay as calm as possible and quickly assess the situation. Is the bear acting defensively or in some other way? Don't run unless safety is near and you're absolutely sure you can reach it. Climbing a tree can sometimes be an option, but is still no guarantee of safety.
Take it easy.
Group together if possible. Prepare your deterrent.
Stop there.
It's very important to understand the difference
Whoa
between
there.
defensive bears and those with other motives, because your responses will be different from this point on. What do you do when you're facing a defensive bear? A defensive bear is a stressed bear. You have entered its personal space and the bear perceives you as a threat. The bear may retreat or remain nearby, nervous and uncertain. It may approach you or charge. Whenever a bear approaches or charges, stand your ground. This may be difficult. Facing a defensive bear can be a terrifying experience. But physical contact is rare. Most charges stop short.
Hey, bear. It's okay.
Try to appear non-threatening.
Stay there.
Talk to the bear in a calm voice. This may reassure the bear as well as yourself.
Stay there.
Don't shout or throw anything at a bear acting defensively.
It's okay.
It may provoke an
It's
attack.
good. You go away. It's all right.
When the bear is not moving towards you, cautiously try to increase your distance, keeping your eye on the bear. Remember, you have entered its personal space. Increasing your distance is the best way to resolve the situation. Usually, the bear will calm down as you retreat. If the bear continues to advance, stop.
bear, you stay
Continue
back there.
to stand your ground. Keep talking calmly.
Go back.
If it stops its approach, try again to increase your distance. If you have a deterrent, such as bear spray or a firearm, use it as a last resort if the bear charges and appears intent on contact. An attack is when a bear physically contacts you. If it's a defensive attack, fall to the ground as close to the actual contact as possible. Lay on your stomach with your legs spread slightly apart. Lock your fingers behind your head. This position will protect your face and neck. Bears often focus defensive attacks on a person's face if unprotected. If the bear flips you over, continue rolling until once again your stomach and vital organs are protected against the ground. If you've kept your pack on, it may provide some protection for your back and neck. Do not struggle or cry out.
Typically, a defensive bear will stop attacking once it thinks you are no longer a threat. When the attack stops, remain still, wait for the bear to leave. If you start moving before the bear is gone, it may resume its attack. If an attack is prolonged, it's no longer acting defensively.
What do you do when a bear approaches you in a non-defensive manner? A bear that deliberately approaches you showing little or no stress is not acting defensively. It may have other reasons to approach you. The bear is either curious, human habituated, food conditioned, asserting dominance, or possibly predatory. The way these bears approach may appear similar, but your best response to all of them is the same. Stop.
Hey, bear.
Remain as
Okay,
calm as
bear.
possible and
Go,
talk
bear.
to the bear in a firm voice.
All right, bear.
Assess
I'm
the
here.
situation.
Okay. Okay, bear.
Try to move well away from the bear's path or trail. That may be all it wants you to do. Watch the bear.
Okay.
If it follows with its attention directed at you, stop. Stand your ground. At this stage, all but an aggressive or predatory bear would most likely have abandoned its advance. You could now be in a dangerous situation. A bear that is initially curious or testing you may become predatory if you do not stand up to it. Now is the time for you to act aggressively. Let the bear know you will fight if attacked. The more the bear persists, the more aggressive your response should be. Shout at the bear. Stare it in the eye. Challenge it. Make yourself look as big as possible. Stamp your feet as you take a step or two toward the bear. Move slowly uphill of it. Stand on a log or a rock. This is the time to use your deterrent. Threaten the bear with whatever is at hand. Most bears stop short of attack, but they may approach very close. If you can't deter the bear and it attacks, fight. Kick, punch, or hit the bear with whatever weapon is available. Concentrate your attack on the face, eyes, and nose. Fight any bear that attacks you in your building or tent. The two main types of serious attacks are defensive or predatory. A defensive attack is when the bear is trying to remove a threat. In a predatory attack, the bear is intent on eating you. Your initial response should be the same. Stand your ground. If you are unable to deter the bear before it physically makes contact, your response to these two types of serious attacks are different. In a defensive attack, play dead. A predatory attack, fight back. You may be able to drive away an attacking bear from someone else, but if you do this, you risk drawing the attack to yourself. There are tools that can help you to deter a bear. These deterrents include bear spray, firearms, non-lethal projectiles, and a variety of noisemakers. Bear spray has been used to deter bears at close range in a number of situations. It's not 100% effective and should not be a substitute for avoiding an encounter. Make sure you purchase an approved bear spray, not a personal defense product, and carry it ready to use, not in your pack. keep it handy in your tent at night. Exercise caution. If discharged upwind or in a confined space, bear spray can disable the user. Sprays are only meant to be discharged at close range in the face of an approaching bear. If you intend to carry a firearm, make sure it's adequate. .30 caliber or larger, or a 12-gauge shotgun with rifled slugs. Practice until you can shoot quickly and accurately under stress, and at close range at an object moving rapidly and irregularly towards you. Mentally rehearse the situations where you'd use it. Wounding a bear can make the situation a lot worse. Know the capabilities and limitations of the products you choose. Deterrence can be useful, but should not give you a false sense of security. Training and practice are essential. Both bear spray and firearms have regulations governing their transport and use. Consult with local authorities about what is allowed in your area. Most of bear safety is prevention. Avoiding a bear encounter is the best way to stay safe in bear country. Find out what species of bears you could encounter and where they are most likely to be. Learn about their ecology, habits, and foods. When in bear country, stay alert. Be aware of your surroundings. Warn bears of your presence. Make lots of noise when necessary, especially when moving through thick vegetation. Sing, talk, clap, or carry a noisemaker. Pay attention to wind direction. Bears downwind are more likely to sense you at a distance. Be cautious in noisy areas such as streams where chances of surprise encounters are high. Look for signs of recent bear activity. These may include tracks, droppings, evidence of digging, torn up logs, overturned rocks, and claw and bite marks on trees. Be especially careful in the early morning and evening when bears are often most active. On hot days, bears may be resting in cool, shaded areas, such as thick vegetation or near creeks. Foul odors or scavengers may indicate a dead animal nearby. Be extremely cautious. Go back the way you came. A grizzly bear feeding on a carcass is particularly dangerous. Whenever possible, travel in a group. Groups are noisier and easier to detect, and several people are more intimidating to a bear than one or two. Keep children close at hand and in sight. Unless your dog is well trained and accustomed to bears, keep it on a leash or leave it at home. A poorly trained or unleashed dog can bring an angry bear back to you. Don't camp on bear travel routes. Bears usually follow the path of least resistance, along riverbanks, trails, ridges, and lake shorelines. Use local knowledge of bears and recommended camping practices. Your risk and responsibility increase when you enter high-quality bear habitat, especially feeding areas such as berry patches and salmon streams. Many odors attract bears. Don't cook or store food in your tent. Minimize smelly food and garbage. Store all food and garbage so bears cannot smell or reach it. Manufactured bear-resistant food containers have proven effective for camping and are required in some areas. Handle pet food with as much care as your own. If possible, completely burn your garbage in a hot fire. Seal and pack out anything you can't burn completely. Don't bury it. A bear is just going to dig it up. Bears are attracted to petroleum-based products, such as fuels, oils, some plastics, and rubber. Keep these out of reach. There is no evidence that bears are more likely to attack menstruating women, but it's wise to use tampons instead of pads and dispose of them as you would any attractant. Clean and store your cooking utensils and dishes after each use. Dispose of strained wastewater in a small pit dug well away from your campsite. Don't let bears learn human food or garbage is an easy meal. Your safety and the safety of others who follow may depend on your actions. Failure to do this often has serious consequences for people and bears. Tripwires, motion detectors, and compact electric fences can be effective at detecting or deterring bears, but are not a substitute for a clean camp. Be proficient in first aid and carry sufficient medical supplies. Inform others where you're going to be and when you plan to return. Consider two-way radios, cell or satellite telephones to keep others aware of your location. Such communication can save lives. Even if you take precautions, you may still encounter a bear. Be prepared. Consider carrying a deterrent and know how to use it. Your knowledge of bear behavior and motivation and your responses to them can influence the outcome of the encounter. Now, let's review your response to bear encounters. Identify yourself as human to bears you cannot avoid by talking and slowly waving your arms. Try to give the bear your scent. Increase your distance from the bear, even if it appears unconcerned. Do not run. It could invite pursuit. If a bear approaches you, stand your ground. Quickly assess the situation. Is the bear behaving defensively or in some other way? Remain calm. Attacks are rare. Do not run unless you're absolutely sure of reaching safety. Prepare your deterrent. If the bear is approaching in a defensive manner, try to appear non-threatening. Don't shout at the bear. Talk to the bear in a calm voice. If the bear stops its approach, increase your distance. If the bear resumes its approach, stand your ground. Keep talking calmly and prepare to use your deterrent. If the bear cannot be deterred and is intent on attack, fall to the ground as close to contact as possible and play dead. When the attack stops, remain still and wait for the bear to leave. If an attack is prolonged or the bear starts eating you, it is no longer being defensive. If the bear approaches in a non-defensive manner, talk to the bear in a firm voice. Try to move away from the bear's travel path. If the bear follows you with its attention directed at you, stop. Stand your ground and prepare to use your deterrent. Act aggressively toward the bear. Shout. Make yourself look as big as possible. If the bear attacks, use your deterrent and fight for your life. Remember, if an attack is defensive, play dead. If it's predatory, fight back. Though bears rarely attack people, they can be dangerous. Treat them with caution and respect. Learn as much as possible about bears and how your behavior can prevent problems. The safest thing to do when in bear country is to avoid all encounters with bears. Most of safety is preventing encounters. Stay alert and be aware of your surroundings. Don't surprise bears. Warn them of your presence. Choose campsites carefully. Keep a clean camp free of attractants. Move away undetected from bears that are unaware of you or distant. Bears are an important part of our natural heritage. By learning about their behavior and habits, people can avoid situations that endanger themselves and bears. This knowledge can help us appreciate and enjoy bears and the places they live. It may also reduce some of the human intolerance so detrimental to these majestic animals.